Right. I have to leave you there, Leo, and come to Mary Robinson and Alice Glenn. Mary Robinson, a proponent of divorce. What about the 10th Amendment?
Well, my first reaction is to very much welcome the fact that we're discussing a government bill to remove the ban on divorce. I think this is a great step forward for the country. I really mean that. I'm going to be actively campaigning for it. I have reservations about the restrictive nature of it. I would share William Duncan's analysis. It is very restrictive. In a sense, there are two factors to be taken into account. One is the wording in the Constitution, that the court must be satisfied that the marriage has failed for 5 years and must be satisfied of other matters, that there's no possibility of reconciliation and that adequate provision is made for dependent spouse and child, which of course is right. And then apart from that, the government have indicated that there must also be, there will be legislation requiring a period of 5 years separation before proceedings can be initiated, and that the person must have already had either a judicial separation or a separation agreement that has been made a rule of court. The combination of those will make it extremely restrictive legislation, and I worry about that. I think it's politically pragmatic. It's a bit of an Irish solution to this very real problem that we can see here this evening.
What you're really saying is that it would be very difficult for any future government to go back to the country to
This is the problem. I think we really should. I have sympathy for a government bringing in reform in this area. I think, you know, the realistic position is it's not easy to ensure that you get support. I'm actually confident that this measure will be carried. I would like them to have thought more of family law and people involved in the actual situation, because divorce in fact is not so much about marriage breakdown, it really is about the right to remarry. And I think we are trapping people cruelly and unnecessarily in an unnecessary time lag in asserting a right to remarry, and I regret that.
Alice Glenn, too restrictive, says Mary Robinson, and if it got through, well, it would remain as it is because virtually no government would have the guts to go back to the people and make it looser.
Okay, there are so many things that have been said that I would like to refer to. First, if I could briefly, I think it was Karen who said in her contribution that it had been reported that the campaign would be dirty and divisive. I wish to assure Karen and everybody else that it is not the intention of the people that I think I would represent to be divisive or dirty. That appeared in the newspaper today. I was asked by a reporter, did I think it would be dirty and divisive? My reply was that I didn't know about it being dirty, but I had no doubt at all that it would be divisive, because one cannot avoid that. The other thing is the numbers game. We have in the country at the moment 750,000 marriages, registered marriages, and I believe there are 25,000 marriages take place annually. Now, the only reasonable and meaningful statistics that have emerged were those that came out of the labour workforce survey, and they found that there was a total of 24,000 people in this separate situation. When that was broken down, you found that about 2/3 of those people would not have any interest in remarrying. I won't take the time to go into it all, but it's there for anyone who wants to analyse it.
At the same time, when you go into numbers, yes, Alice, and I don't want to go into them with you,
no, but Pat,
we would look after all sorts of tiny minorities in this country. That's the kind of country we are. So it doesn't matter how many of them there are. Should we look after them or should we not?
Okay, Pat, but look, you see, we're setting the scene here tonight for a campaign, and I would hope that that campaign would be run on logic and right reason, and that would be my hope and aspiration, and I would work for that. So far as the changes that are to be made, it's a section 4132. Now, last night when the Taoiseach presented the document to us in Leinster House, we had a very, very brief time in which to analyse it, and in that scant period I cast my eye over 10 pages, and it became apparent to me that 95% of what was embodied there should be in place now, because it is asking for the proper courts, the assistance. We need it now for the families. You don't need a referendum.
I'll have to leave you there, Alice. Go to the Taoiseach at this stage. What about that? You're bringing in all this family law, which was long overdue, as a sort of a carrot.
No, I believe it's necessary and it's progress, and I would like to allay any fears Deputy Glenn has, and that the law will be put in place before the divorce is available.
What about William Binchy's reservation? Now, he says it's open, looking at the Constitution, and some future Supreme Court could have a look at it and say you can have divorce tomorrow as long as you can prove that there was no marriage.
That was the first thing which I wanted to refute, and it's a prerequisite for getting divorce that a couple will be separate for 5 years or for periods amounting to 5 years.
Are you willing to look at the wording of the amendment and have it checked out by your lawyers?
That is the intention, and that is what it will be. And the second thing I would like to say in relation to what Senator Robinson said, this is not an Irish solution. I mean, that has been mooted last night, in fact, this is an Irish solution to an Irish problem. This is a very specific remedy to a very serious problem which the government is facing up to.
Alice
Pat, may I say that the wording presented is that we are deleting no law shall be enacted providing for the grant of dissolution of marriage, and we are substituting the following. A marriage has failed. That's one reason. The failure has continued for a period or periods of 5 years, and there is no reasonable possibility of reconciliation. Those are the exact words that are to go into our Constitution. Now, constitutional language is very specific, and that is not saying anything at all about periods of separation. A couple could go along the minute that's
right. Okay, Alice, we take your point. That's William Binchy's point again.
And I would refer you to the accompanying document from the Department of Justice last night, which says that the divorce legislation to be proposed will require that before a spouse would be entitled to apply for a decree dissolving the marriage and enabling that spouse to remarry, the spouses will first have availed themselves of either the separation procedures mentioned in paragraphs 10 and 11. There will have to be a separation and a failure for 5 years as a prerequisite.
Are you willing to look at the wording of that amendment in case there is a problem?
I am confident that that is the intention and that's what will be affected in the legislation.
I'll just take a shout from William Binchy in the back row. If the Taoiseach does get that wording sorted out, would you be in favour of the amendment as written?
Well, I mean, we now are in a situation that a day after this amendment is produced, the Taoiseach appears to be conceding, or perhaps...
No, he's not conceding, but you raised the point. I'm asking you. I'm trying to get your position on it. If that point was sorted out, would you be happy with the proposal?
The position is that a bill has been put forward on the basis that it deals with 5-year separation. In fact, it does not do that, and that's a vitally important point if our people are going to vote on it. Point that I made, namely that the constitutional protection for families under Article 41, for the right to educate their children under Article 42, is removed once the divorce takes place.
Briefly, Taoiseach, would you like to respond to that one?
I do not accept there will be any weakness of the family's position in Irish society after this divorce is passed, legislation is passed.
You think it's all written in there?
Yes, I do believe so.
What about the point that it is rather loose language?
The accompanying legislation in relation to the restructuring of the conciliation situation for marriages will be of benefit, because it has to be a 5-year period during which reconciliation, if possible, will be effected.
Taoiseach, thank you very much. Mary Robinson, Alice Glenn, thank you. Just to give you a word, the dramatic car chase and abduction of the Dublin girl has ended peacefully at Crossakeel in County Meath. The Gardaí have told us that at 10:05, the gunman who was holding Michelle Hanlon at the end of a sawn-off shotgun surrendered to them, and Miss Hanlon is now reported to be safe and well. And we understand that the mother of the man who was holding her spoke to her son just before he surrendered. So that's a good message at the end of this Today Tonight programme. Over to John. No, not over to John, me. A reminder of the phone number, by the way, for those who wish to make contact with the hospice movement featured on last night's programme. The Hospice Foundation of Our Lady's Hospice, Harold's Cross, Dublin. The telephone number, because it was very late when we gave it to you last night, is 973701 or 972101. And that's it for tonight and for this week. Join us next Tuesday at 9:30. Until then, good night.